Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message
On the book of Romans with Kurt Bjorklund.
Romans 8, verses 18 through 27 have these three groans: the groaning of creation, the groaning of the believer. And then verse 26 through 28 has this amazing passage about the groaning of the Holy Spirit. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. So this groan is, again, significant in that it starts with this phrase, in the same way. So it's pointing back to the groan of creation and the groan of believers for this redemption from sin, for the deliverance, the being made new. And now he says that there's this comforting truth that the Spirit comes along, the groaning of our lives with his Spirit, and he helps us in our weakness, which means that he is helping us in a place where we are unable to really help ourselves. And this is significant because the prayer here is where we don't even really know what to pray. We're so befuddled by a situation. Have you ever been in that situation where you literally don't know how to pray because you feel so overwhelmed? He's saying, in that moment, I want you to know that there's a groaning of the Spirit of God that comes along, and his presence is there, and the Spirit works to do something in us that we don't even understand exactly what we need. John MacArthur writes it this way. He says, to make clear how the Spirit worked, Paul turns to the subject of prayer. Although we are redeemed and absolutely secure in our adoption as God's children, nevertheless, we do not know how to pray as we should. Paul does not elaborate on our inability to pray as we ought, but his statement is all-encompassing. Because of our imperfect perspectives, finite minds, human frailties, and spiritual limitations, we are not able to pray in absolute consistency with God's will. Many times we are not even aware of the spiritual need that exists, much less how best they should be met. Even the Christian who prays sincerely, faithfully, and regularly cannot possibly know God's purposes concerning all of his own needs or the needs of others for whom he prays. And this is where the Spirit steps in. And then it says, with wordless groans. Now, there are some who have seen this as being the operation of the gift of tongues, because they say this is what this is. But I don't think this can be tongues because of this phrase, wordless, that's used here, because that's in essence saying that this isn't a language, because the whole point of tongues is that it's a language unknown to the speaker that they're speaking in. And here he's saying, no, this is different than that. These are groanings that don't have words behind them. And he's saying this is what the Spirit does. And then he uses this word intercedes. And I want to take a few moments to just consider that word with us. And we're going to do that tomorrow. What I want you to see here in this moment is that when you feel that you are bereft of options, that you are out of strength, that you don't even know how to pray, that God's Spirit steps into that moment and matches your groaning. And that is the hope that is expressed here. And so you may not be in that season today. You might be in a season where you're feeling that kind of groaning. It might be a low-level groan. Maybe you're frustrated with the job that you're in, maybe your home situation. Maybe something just feels like it isn't changing after years of hoping for change, and you don't even know how to pray about it, what to hope for anymore. The Spirit is groaning on your behalf. And so that is something that is, without a doubt, a beautiful part of understanding what God is doing through the Holy Spirit and our frustration.
Thanks for joining us here today.
There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.